Welcome to another video by Andrew Sheik as I sit in my room having my cigarettes with my beer and my chosen things. I do not wish to care about being depicted as a drug addict, as I know I am. But there is only some who know to believe a little farther to an extent that we actually need it to compare to the people who may be sober and stable and able to think properly are not actually realizing that the earth is dying. God has taken the most faithful, most prestigious building that we know and took how many years to build, and God knows what is behind all that building was, and is taking it from us because we are not choosing to believe properly. We have an earth to save, and we are not doing it. We need to save the earth. Honestly, that is it. It takes someone like me, all high and drunk and stupid as shit, because you know what? I'm doing the exact same thing that God intended me to do, in a sense. And that's not build profit for other people's power that destroys the earth within it. God said, I will work as hard as I need in a world where it is working, where it does not harm. But when the earth has warned us that it needs us to stop, then God said, Andrew Sheik will relapse, and he will explain to you in these videos that we all need to give what we are doing a second thought. It would take someone on drugs to quit his job and give his life away and just sit there and rot. But a smart person would say, I'm just going to keep playing the game. The world is dying. There's nothing I can do about it. I'm just going to stay the same. But God needs someone as stupid as me to make these videos, even as obvious as it is, just to say the earth needs the people of the earth to focus on saving the earth right now. A normal person couldn't do that. You would have to be high on drugs. And that was God's chosen gift for me. Drew Fo Double Deuce. I was born April 22nd, Andrew Parvez Sheik, from my mother and father, who were 42 years of age, and I was born 2 months premature. The name, Drew Photo 2, is in relatable aspects to the tattoo artist Kat Von D. Katra being 4, Von being 20, and D meaning de, 2. Or you could say, even on top of that, I drew photo 2. I drew Fo Double Deuce. There are many meanings I have depicted about this name to control you and make you know that I am of an essence by God alone to tell the people that we need to save our home. You look at me like I'm just some stupid cokehead. Okay, fine. I tell you, who would God need to say something so, how I see it, normal, to tell people that we should stop working and go back to being farmers and save the land? I find that to be normal, but the general public that you are cannot realize that. You keep working in your factories and building stuff that we don't need, that is destroying the earth, and it needs to end now. God has made a clear example that the one building that God would choose to accept over any other building would be that church. And God said at this point, it is unworthy. It is building faith that is not real faith. People are trying to believe that they need to buy their faith and pay for faith in today's world, when faith is given to you without having to buy it. It does not cost you anything. To relate something like money to faith is not what God intended. And that's what that building is being used for. And God said, this cannot exist. If any building should have been saved, it would have been that one. And God said, not even that one should be saved. And now we have to realize this is the sign that God is trying to tell us. No buildings deserve the land. Our land deserves plants. Things we actually need. A shelter, fine. But a church saying that beliefs and religion and faith is to be paid for with money in this day and age is not worthy of God letting it live. Do you think God had the power to stop that building from burning? Or God, with his power, made that building burn down to give us the sign that we need to see? We are not deserving of something that is the most prestigious building that man knows if we cannot accept the other buildings destroying our earth. So God said, this building is not deserving of the humans. I shall take it. And that's what thee did. It's so blatantly obvious. God could have stopped that from happening. God is mad at us for having beliefs that society makes you believe. That building was being used to make people think they were right by buying their faith with money. That building was never meant to be used as a distraction, as a manipulation to turn religious views into what they are today. Your beliefs, your views are not to be bought through money. You can build faith, and you only build faith in righteous things. As soon as money is involved with religion or faith, it does not agree. You will realize you have to realize this is what God is trying to tell you. God wanted that building would have stayed. Why did God say that building must go over any other building? Is simply to show you that if that building is not worthy to God, then why are any at all deserving for the land we live on when we know these buildings are destroying earth? How can God say we are not deserving of a building that gives us what it is? That building meant so much to us and certain people, but they had the wrong reason for that feeling, for their beliefs. Their beliefs were being told to them by someone else for the building of that person's greed. People these days are buying into religion as if faith can be bought for them. We need to realize the earth is dying. We do not need a building at all. So God said, I will take the one that means the most to show you this has to go. And if that building has to go, then they all have to go. That's what God is saying to us. We have to focus. The world is dying. Factories have to close. Planes have to stop flying. Cars have to be stopped being driven. We have to stop what we are doing if it is harming the earth. God has made a sign. Among what other sign could God give us of so much meaning? God destroyed the holiest temple on earth. Why would God let that happen? He is trying to tell us these buildings are worthless. And how does God say that? God takes the building that we believe we would need over any other building because of the faith, the so-called faith, that is behind it. It is being forced into your mind that religion needs to be bought. If that building deserved to go down when God easily could have stopped it, then why do we need any building at all? It is destroying the earth. God is showing us the time is coming. We need to stop what we are doing. Like right now, it's going to take all of us. If you want the world to live, these buildings cannot exist. What else could it mean? Why would God take away the most religious piece of history known to mankind? Why would God take that? It's because the beliefs behind it are not righteous. They are being told to you to believe. No one should tell you how to believe. No one should tell you that you have to buy your faith. That's what this building in this day and age was being used for. To tell people they had to buy their faith. I have no reason to believe that if that dollar raised even 1 penny for someone else's benefit, it was used in the wrong meaning. A building of religious beliefs is to make no man money. Money is not faith. So God said, because this building was creating belief to man that the man themselves need to buy their faith, when in the beginning that's not what it was used for. That's why God let it exist. But in 2019, when religion, I don't know how many times I can say it differently. We need to focus on saving Earth. God has made this sign to be heard. What could it mean? How could God let this building be destroyed? If it is the most religious, faithful thing, God would let it live. but it is being used for false meaning. And that is the sign we need to realize that comes from this happening. We really don't know how to believe anymore, because someone is telling you how to believe yourself, how to view your own beliefs, that you have to pay for it, that it costs money. No. We are not deserving of a building that creates the greed of someone else. You know, it hurt God a lot to let that burn down. But in reality, what other choice does God have to make a point to us? God did not want that building to live another second. It was being used for the wrong things. If that building that we believed should be here over any other building, as many others believe, that building should have never left us. And with the power of God, it never would have. But then again, with the power of God, knowing these buildings are being used to forsake God's true meaning, God is then left with no choice. God can destroy all the buildings, but what would that do? That would kill a lot of people, and God doesn't want that. So God's going to make a point in such a way that it will not destroy so much life as if God had just destroyed every single building the way that God wanted it to be done, but rather take one building that says this building in God's essence needs to be here. And if God could do anything, God would keep that building here. And God could have kept that building here. But He had to make a point. These buildings are not deserving. If God were to take any other building, we would have not been able to believe it. God had to take the most important building to society's belief of religion. Society was using that building for the wrong things. It had to go. It destroyed God to take it. It broke God's. God did not want to do that, but God needed to make a point. These buildings are destroying Earth. What else could it mean? Why would God take the most sacred thing we know on earth and destroy it? God wants us to see something. Your religion, your beliefs cannot be told to you by someone else. Those are your beliefs, and that is your religion. This building was being used to create money for false needs. The fact that it was creating money at all is a false need. To create money is a false need. There is no reason for money. God would have been more than happy to destroy every single other building on the world, because those buildings were moreover being used for that very reason, that they are building the belief that money needs to exist to live life. But if God destroys all those buildings, what life is left? So many people would die from that effect. God had no other choice but to make the sign more epic and have more meaning by just taking one building and saying that if this building does not need to exist by God's standards, even though we all know God should have never let that happen, why would God let that happen? It's because buildings these days are destroying the earth. But we need to fix that. Because if God fixes that, it's going to mean a lot of people are going to die by God fixing that. If God destroys all the buildings, how many people are going to be left? God needs us to realize this was a sign that need to be figured out. Why would God take the most sacred, most religious thing known to earth? It's because religion is not right in the way the world is today. It's being used against the people. You were never supposed to buy your faith with money. Overall, God could have destroyed any other building, but it wouldn't tell us in the same way that all buildings need to be destroyed. But that in turn would kill a lot of people. So God had no choice. God had to take one building to make God's point. That's the building, if you're God, that God has to take. If you believe God is not trying to tell you something by this church burning down, I don't know why you believe at all. You actually think this building burned down by accident and that God couldn't have stopped it. You are wrong. God burned this building down to tell us we are believing wrong. You cannot have someone tell you what to believe, how to believe, and you are not to pay for faith. And that's what this building was doing. And as much as it killed God to do it, because it didn't always have that same meaning, God had no other choice. At this day and age, God said it is to be done. God cannot shove it in your face anymore. God does not want you to believe what people are telling you to believe and how to believe, because it's wrong. Because if God could tell you how to believe, God, thyself, God would tell you, I need you to believe in saving the, pardon my language, but saving the fucking earth. Honestly, buildings are destroying earth. I'll say it a million times. I'll just keep saying it. It's the only way I can get some sense. These buildings are destroying us. God cannot take all the buildings. That would destroy us even more. God sacrificed the most sacred building to tell the people of the world something. The religion and the beliefs behind that building are not the same as they once were. If that building was not chosen to live on by God's power, then what building is to be lived on at all before that church? If that church was wrong for being here, what building is right for being here? There is nothing you can argue about that. God help us. God is trying to help us. But we don't want to help each other help the earth. We keep going to work every day and destroying the earth. Driving cars, flying planes, factories, all that stuff we do is destroying the earth. No one wants to stop doing it because that's all they know how to do. This is a sign from God. We are all worthless if we do not choose to save our home.